Hi, everybody, and welcome to this live session where we want to give you an at-a-glance overview of our DataMiner 10.2 main release. My name is Ben Vandenberghe. I'm the CEO at Skyline Communications, and it's my pleasure to host this session. We are very excited about this. DataMiner, as you may know, is one of the leading platforms in the world when it comes to managing complex technology ecosystems. We are very proud of our accomplishments across the last decade, where we have been having the opportunity to work with thousands of companies in over 120 countries in the world. And DataMiner is the platform that manages some of the most complex technology ecosystems out there. A large number of media companies, leading broadcasters, satellite operators, classic geostationary infrastructure, LEO constellations, a lot of terrestrial networks around the world with a lot of different types of services, OTT streaming platforms, e-gaming, data centers. So we are very excited to announce this 10.2 release to that broad user base and people that are new to DataMiner. Now, one thing that is very important, of course, is that we need to understand the background of this, because we do live in very exceptional, unusual times. We have all seen in all these different types of businesses and ecosystems a lot of technology evolutions in the past. But you can see the tagline there, empowering your digital transformation. And our teams have been working very hard since many years already to prepare for this moment. Today, we are in exceptional times because most of us, as compared to the past, we were, literally shifting and lifting technology with our existing business, existing workflows that went through different generations of technology. But today, the key thing is that we are all in all these ecosystems migrating towards enabling technology, not bespoke technology. And this enabling technology, it's all about hardware being transformed in software components. It's about legacy bespoke connectivity being replaced by all IP connectivity. It's about the ever-growing offering of cloud services that we have access to, that we can leverage to build and grow our business. And this comes with tremendous opportunity, scalability, on-demand use, scaling up, scaling down, but also with a whole new set of new challenges, just to name a few. Cybersecurity, for example, big concern. How do I implement a powerful multi-cloud capability? How do I take care of complexity and deal with the ever-growing complexity of these ecosystems? And how do I really leverage all the potential of that technology? It has a lot of flexibility, but you have to bring it together into a new environment where you can really create new solutions. In the past, we were deploying and operating. Today, we create. We create and we continuously evolve. And that's the key thing, creating agile operations, creating agile organizations, being able to evolve business models, and really to aim at living up to the objectives defined by digital transformation, empowering people and employees with data and easy access to data, providing the capability to build digital experiences with other platforms and connecting platforms together, optimizing the operation, or even transforming our products. So it's really all about how can we go into that new world and leverage all those capabilities. Now, to really jump in, when I look at the 10.2 release, I kind of like to break it down in 4 key components. And I'm just going to go through all of these to explain you a little bit what DataMiner 10.2 is all about. Number 1, security, because that should be on the top of the list of everybody. It's on the top of the list for Skyline, and we know with the current climate, it is very important. And I'll dig in just a second. Number 2, I think architecture. We have a lot of architectural evolutions in the DataMiner system with a lot of very tangible benefits that you will have. So moving to the 10.2 release with a DataMiner platform is going to give you huge savings in terms of time expenditure and efforts to upgrade and evolve DataMiner systems and get more value more quickly. And we have our cloud proposition. Very proud of that one, because over the past years we have built a new ecosystem that is going to give our customers additional flexibility in terms of services and actually having digital transformation out of the box. And last but not least, of course, there's a ton of new features and capabilities, a lot of features and capabilities that we're very excited about. And during the session, I'll highlight some of the key innovations that you will see in the 10.2 release, which really all play into that digital transformation that we are very keen to achieve. Now, just to get started, security. Security, I think, is a no-brainer. Okay, the stakes are very high. When it comes down to cybersecurity, you really can't take any risks. The impact can be tremendous. So today we are all evolving towards zero trust. We don't trust just the firewalls anymore. We have to be prepared for the inevitable. And if you know and understand that, for example, 60% of the breaches worldwide is basically based on exploits of vulnerabilities for which a patch was already available, you know that you really have to start taking care of that infrastructure. So when it comes down to security in many different ways, I think going to the 10.2 release is very important. Number one, for a fact, the 10.2 release, our security experts, internal experts, have done a tremendous job to really include new major evolutions and enhancements related to security. And we also consult external parties, not only our internal experts. And today, the 10.2 release is ranked really in the highest region of possible security. So if you're serious about security, that's already a very good reason to look at the 10.2 release. But there's also other reasons. Consolidating, for example, your operation and being able to eliminate multiple systems and consolidate on one single platform that collects all your data is also strategically very important in the context of security. This is about limiting your attack surface, because no matter how good you try, you're always going to be as strong as your weakest points. So if as an alternative to DataMiner, you would typically have 10 or 20 different systems, the weakest link in there is going to define how secure you are. So consolidating the operations and the data collection on a platform like DataMiner is definitely a good move in terms of hardening your security. And last but not least, is an orchestration platform and an automation platform. So it's really about security by design. Because when you deploy automation, you deploy orchestration solutions, you can have security by design. You can decide to say, hey, if we're spinning up new services and creating new services, for example, deploying new services, we can build those workflows so that we have the most secure environment. The resources that are not utilized, we can tear them down, we can shut them down, or we can turn them off. We can even power off, for example, certain equipment, or we can power down certain ports, for example. So security by design is also a very important concept when you start moving into the world of automation and orchestration. Now, the second important thing is the architectural evolutions. There's a lot of architectural evolutions that you will find in DataMiner 10.2. If I have to highlight two of them, is number one, the ability to upgrade and evolve your DataMiner system at runtime from the 10.2 onwards. And let me be clear on that. You see a picture there, that's our DataMiner client, the Cube client. It's a very impressive piece of software, because it's a very simple and intuitive screen. But in reality out there, if you go into live systems, this is a screen that provides you access to every little bit and piece of information across your entire organization. Cloud services, on-the-ground infrastructure, private cloud environment, it doesn't matter. Products from any vendor. DataMiner really, literally, contains a complete digital twin of the entire operation across any vendor, technology, and domain boundaries. And that single client provides you an intuitive way to easily access all that data. But this client in the 10.2 release is completely decoupled from the backend. In other words, when our software development teams release new versions, new features, new capabilities in that client, you will be able to update and upgrade that at runtime. But also on the backend. Also on the backend, the teams have done a great effort to split off, we call it our extension pack, to split off our extension pack where we can do also live updates. So in that respect, the 10.2 release, it's all about saving time and effort in the future to be able to make continuous evolution, and at the same time being able to leverage new features and capabilities in the DataMiner platform much sooner and much earlier. A second highlight in terms of the architecture, I would say, is on the data storage side. As you may know already, we leverage open industry standard big data storage solutions. We are fully integrated with Apache Cassandra and Elasticsearch, for example. Now, this release supports a full migration to a single consolidated Cassandra cluster. And that's a big advantage because today it's all about data. The more data you have, the more data that you can leverage, the more you can really leverage that data-driven strategy. Now, I want to make a little side note there. If you go to the 10.2 release after that update, you don't have to migrate your data instantly or immediately. You can actually do that data migration after the update at any time that is appropriate. And we have a seamless migration path to transition from your old data storage to your new data storage. So you don't really have to do that immediately. And the reason I mention that is also because we will talk about our cloud proposition in just a second, but you have to maybe keep in mind that as part of our cloud offering, we are going to introduce DataMiner data storage as a service. So if you would be in a position where you say, hey, I don't want to invest in the infrastructure to host all that specific compute and storage for all that data, I would rather have something that is much more flexible and I don't have to worry about scaling it up or scaling it down or maintaining it, we will introduce that service. So maybe, if you go to the 10.2 release, if you think that it could be of interest for you to use data storage as a service, you can talk to us and we can see what the best path is for the upgrade. But from an architecture point of view, I would definitely also consider a 10.2 update. Now, we also have our cloud proposition. And again, we will have a session next week where we do a deep dive on that specific part of our ecosystem. But essentially, we have a public cloud platform, the DataMiner cloud platform, which is, out there. We build it, we design it, we run it, we operate it. And you have a classic data miner system. A classic data miner system could be deployed on the ground, on-prem, or in a private cloud environment. Or, you could have a combination, a hybrid approach. The thing is that, with the DataMiner cloud platform, we introduce a very unique capability. You can make a data miner system as we call cloud connected. Okay, so you can today, as soon as you have a 10.2 release, you can, in a very simple and easy way, build a single consolidated secure connection between your existing data miner system and the data miner cloud platform. And from there on, you will have a whole range of new options and features and capabilities out of the box. And we're going to show detailed demos next week. But one of them, for example, is to have an out-of-the-box integration with products for collaboration like Microsoft Teams, and we have full ChatOps capabilities. You really need to see one of those demos, but this is a game changer. This is really all about the digital transformation objectives, where we say we want to empower people with data. And in a collaborative context, when people communicate and interact with each other, they can really communicate with DataMiner, and they can access any data that they're entitled to, that they have access to, and bring that into that chat collaboration environment. Very excited about that, and it's a real game changer. And it comes by design, because as you know, DataMiner is already integrated with over 7,000 products from over 700 different vendors. As soon as you plug in new technology, cloud services, hardware, software, whatever it may be, you will have out of the box instantly the ability to have a standard secured way of empowering people in chat collaboration to interact with that data in a lot of different ways. But it's not only that. That single one connection will allow you, for example, to share data live. Again, that's part of the digital transformation objectives, being able to exchange data in a very easy and flexible manner. And I will show you next week, as soon as you cloud connect it, it literally takes 10 seconds to build up a dashboard with some KPIs and some information and to share that with anybody in the world. Again, through that same secure connection, highly secure connection, very well defined. And automatically you have ChatOps, you have live data sharing and other services coming up. As I mentioned just in the architecture, when I was talking about the architecture, data storage as a service. So if in the future you would say, hey, I don't really want to maintain the whole data storage component of a data miner system, you can actually move it from on the ground or the private cloud, wherever it is today, and you can move it to the public cloud platform that we have there, where you will have data storage as a service. So again, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. Okay, we do have such exciting innovations coming up that are really going to be empowered by this constellation. So we're really looking at having a data miner ecosystem, a data miner platform, where you will have the ultimate choices, where you will be able to decide what you want on the ground, what you want in the private cloud, what you want in the public cloud as a service, and all of those choices will be there. Next week, we're going to talk about that in more detail. Now, the other thing is all the features and capabilities. We don't have time to go into all the details of all the changes, but I just want to highlight the ones that you see there on the screen, because these are the key innovations. This is really all about digital transformation and doing things where you say, hey, we're going to deal with the challenges and the objectives of digital transformation by design, out of the box. Now, the first thing is our DataMiner dashboards. And I just want to be clear, we're big advocates of open architectures. I just talked about the data storage where we have Apache Cassandra, for example, Elasticsearch and things like that. So we definitely also want to have a context where we want to say, hey, if we have teams that want to use, for example, Grafana or Kibana or Power BI, those are options. You have that single consolidated digital twin. That's the powerful proposition of DataMiner. I have a single real-time updated complete picture of my entire operation, millions and millions of metrics in that DataMiner system, and I can plug in any tools. But when it comes to dashboards, we wanted to make sure that we focus on things that are very important for our customers. One of the things that you will see is it's very easy to use. DataMiner DevOps engineers will be able to build dashboards on the fly. On the side panels, you will see you have a whole library of widgets. You can take widgets, you can connect it to any data source. Again, if somebody in the morning is connecting you with a new cloud service or a new product, piece of hardware or software or whatever, transmitters, whatever it is that you have in your operation, as soon as it's connected, I can go to that side panel, I can grab that piece of data, drag and drop it onto my dashboard and have it there. And as you can see already on the dashboards that I show you there, this is all real-time live updated. So this is really designed for real-time operation. So that's what we tailor our dashboards for. And you can also see maybe there at the bottom, if you look at it, we do have a lot of other features and capabilities and widgets that are very important for a lot of our customers. For example, our graphical capabilities, you know, the drawings and the schematics that you make in Microsoft Visio, you can plug them into your dashboard, live updated, you know, and showing very, very intuitive graphical presentations. But you can also get like, you know, complete alarm lists in there, just one component, quick. If you have RF connectivity, you're in satellite, digital terrestrial transmissions or whatever type of business, 5G, it involves RF. You can see there, you know, how we can also plug in RF signals, for example, and have very intuitive spectral images. So all of that can be consolidated in those dashboards. And last but not least, we provide control capabilities. You can see an example there on the right-hand corner where you can see some examples. This is a button control panel. It could be a single button. It could be multiple buttons, could be whatever it is, which is linked to all automated procedures. Because ultimately, it's all about that. It's about being able to leverage complex technology, but providing convenience and ease of use for the users. So all of these capabilities are coming in the DataMiner dashboards. Now, if there's one thing I need to highlight also, it's our generic query interface. And you can see it there on the left-hand side. This is a generic query interface query, okay? So this is a very graphical capability where I can go and select from menus. And essentially what you're doing is, I always like to compare it to talking to your digital twin. I have that digital twin there. It contains all the data, all the information from across all my technology deployments, whether it's an on-prem IP network, my cloud services, my data centers, my satellite uplinks, whatever towers that you have, whatever it is. And you can basically go and make all these queries. You can go ahead and say, oh, let's get me all the metrics from all my towers. Let's get me all those Cisco switches. Let's get all the virtual instances that I deployed in the cloud. Filter them down on firmware versions, filter them down on tags or whatever it is. Get me those metrics. So over here, you can see, you can very easily open up those elements and select which data. I want to have the bit rate. I want to have the power consumption. I want to have the transmission power, whatever metrics they are. You can filter it down. There's tons of options there. So you can say, hey, you know, as I build that query, and as a matter of fact, if you build the query, you can see it live. You're kind of like building tables with data. And you can say things like, filter it down, okay? Filter it down because I only want, for example, specific items with a specific version or a firmware version, for example. I want to have aggregation of data. Give me the minimum, give me the maximum, give me the average, the median, or the percentiles. You can bring two tables and basically bring them together, do a join of those tables. So you can really, with the generic query interface, you can play with the data. You can interrogate that unified digital twin with all the data from your operation and use it and manipulate it in any way you want. And of course, you can show it as a table, but you can translate that table also in all kinds of graphical components, okay? And one of the graphical components I like to highlight is our node edge diagram. These are the nodes, and you have the edges which are connecting the nodes. And you have things like labels over here, labels that display real-time metrics. Now, the beautiful thing is that you can power this entire graphical presentation, as you can see it over here, along with the filter panels that go along with it. You can really basically design it based on those GQIs that I mentioned. So I can easily say, hey, go and grab all my virtual machines, go and grab all my cloud services, go and grab all my switches and routers and all that, and bring them together and connect them together based on logical and physical connectivity. I want to have this and this data and bring it together into the label. So you can come up with so many very creative, intuitive graphical presentations, whether it's an all IP network and whether you focus on the traffic flowing or the services flowing, or this is a Kubernetes cluster with the physical host and all the pods and all the processes and containers that are running. And on the right-hand side, you can actually see an example of an Azure deployment where we say, hey, these are all the components that we deployed in our Azure environment. And as you can see, you can also control and say, hey, which properties need to be available as a filter? So I can easily filter and say, hey, give me all the components involved with that specific activity, my chatbot or the traffic shaping or encoding or transcoding or whatever it is type of business that you're doing. The color coding can be changed. The color coding can be based on the fault data, the alarm status. But as you can see in that illustration, I can also do analytical coloring. So I can go ahead and change the colors to highlight and to troubleshoot and to analyze these complex environments. So very excited about the node edge capability and all the kinds of use cases that you can build with it. And then we have our no-code apps. This is being introduced for the first time in our 10.2 release. No-code apps is empowering people to build their own apps, because if I'm a DataMiner DevOps engineer, you know, it's fantastic. I have all the data there from across my entire organization, no matter what vendor or where it's coming from. And I have my DataMiner cube, and that gives me access to everything. But if I want to empower people, I don't want to go and explain them how they need to use that more complex environment to go in and to find the information that they need. No, I just want to flip it around. I want to identify the different needs that people may have. And as you may see, you know, in the example that I have on the screen here, in my start menu, for example, I have a booking manager, I have a studio manager, I have a confidence monitoring app. So these are little apps designed with our no-code app framework. These are apps that people can make on the fly. And essentially what you're doing is it's pretty simple. You go ahead, this is a Microsoft Azure app. So I'm basically aggregating all the data that I want for people to manage our Azure deployment, for example, or could be an AWS deployment. And as you can see, there's side panels with menus. I can make menus on the fly. I can bring data in there. It doesn't have to be pure Azure data, of course. It could be, you know, from a CDN provider, or it could be other third-party products. Whatever information is relevant, I will bring it together and allow people to easily navigate and work with this. They don't have to deal with any complexity or anything like that. They have a very simple app which is tailored to do the job that they need. And of course, you can come up with a lot of use cases. You know, I took an example here of a studio manager, which allows me to see all my active alarms, my PTP alarms, my alarms in my MCR in New York, for example. I can click and access all the compute and see the status of the compute. I can pull up a list of all the bookings and all the upcoming bookings. Again, the user-definable apps really allow you to take any data, use very much graphical components, make menus and structures, and bundle all of that and just send it out to the users so they have one unified, easy-to-use application. And the beauty is, of course, if my managers decide tomorrow to integrate with new technologies, deploy new technologies, and if there's any information coming into the digital twin, which I feel is important for the studio manager or other people, I'm just going to take that app. We have very nice version control capabilities in there. I'm going to plug the new data in there, have a new version of the app just on the fly. Again, digital transformation, empowering people, interacting with partners through digital experiences. Very, very excited about this one as well. Very similar is actually also the introduction of our user-definable webhooks, okay? So you may have use cases where you want to empower teams and partners and external people with data. You can do that through dashboards, for example. You can do that through user-definable apps. But maybe those teams, those people have needs where they want to bring the data into their tool sets, whatever those may be. Now, of course, if my accountant comes to me and says, Ben, you're the owner of this DataMiner system. You own all that operational data. I would like to have information about the utilization of cloud services, or I would like to be able to pull up the bookings or see the bandwidth utilization for a B2B customer. Now, I could go ahead and say, hey, we have this great API on DataMiner, and here's how you use it, and you're going to have to use this method over here to take your account ID and convert it into a service. And in that service, you will have to go over there to find this piece of equipment. This metric is the bandwidth utilization. You're going to have to do a little bit of math to convert it into the model that you want. That's going to be very cumbersome. Actually, the user-definable webhooks, they allow me to flip that around. My colleagues, my customers, my B2B customers, whoever they may be, they have use cases. They would say, I have a service ID and I need this to integrate into my accounting, into my CRM, into whatever tools they have. And as a DevOps engineer, I go to my trusted DataMiner automation module. I go in there and I can quickly write up a script. And I write up a script where I say, okay, I got my service ID. I'm going to look up the right service in the DataMiner platform. We're going to look for the right resources. We're going to take this and this data. This is the way we're going to process and manipulate it. And at the end of the script, I'm going to return the information and the data that that user wants. And once you've designed that and you just do a couple of test runs, you know it's working, it's doing what it's doing. With a single click, you can deploy that as a new API at runtime in DataMiner. So, and you can see that there on the right-hand side. So you can deploy new user-definable webhooks on the fly with all kinds of functionalities and any use case that you can pretty much imagine. Okay, it's a very secure approach because it has security tokens and all those things, but it's also very secure in the sense that whoever needs something from me, I don't have to expose a full API where they could actually do things wrong. So not only I'm gaining time, I'm also actually going to provide a very secure solution because that webhook is going to do exactly what they want with a single call, very easy, very straightforward, but nothing more than that. So again, this is a very exciting development and capability introduced in the DataMiner platform, which is going to serve so many use cases and is really going to empower digital transformation. Now, to move along, we have also invested since many years in augmented operation, which is essentially we have two teams of AI experts. So, and what their mission is, they're really working and building artificial intelligence into the DataMiner system, into the core of the DataMiner system, to work and operate real time and to leverage that wealth of data to do all kinds of very intelligent things. So it's really all about, the key mission there is to reduce the time and effort that people need to spend to set up and configure a monitoring, automation, and orchestration solution. The system can learn from the data itself. Secondly, it is all about being proactive, being able to identify issues much earlier. And we already have a lot of functionality in there. We started with the forecasting, for example. That's already something that we started some time ago. And you can see some examples right there on the top hand right corner. But don't be mistaken. As I always say, this is technology and capabilities that we continuously refine and continuously evolve. It's only getting better and better and stronger with every single release. So even the forecasting, for example, you will see that in the 10.2 release, DataMiner is doing the forecasting, but it's also doing the forecasting in different time frames. What is going to happen in the next hour? What is going to happen in the next days, etc. So we have that different layers of forecasting now to have more accurate forecasting capabilities for different purposes. Of course, forecasting is not just forecasting for the fun of it. It's really about, for example, proactive gap detection, being able to identify how metrics are evolving and to identify potential issues ahead of the fact that they would impact an operation. DataMiner also has things like change point detection, which is heavily enhanced on the 10.2 release, anomaly detection. So basically, and again, this is I always say it's by design, but that's what it is. If I'm going to connect a new data source, whatever product or from whatever vendor it's coming in, the AI is automatically going to look at all the metrics. It's going to start doing those forecasting, and it's going to start analyzing the data automatically, a bit rate, a temperature, a number of online users, and all of that. And it's going to determine what is the normal behavior of that metric. And based on that, it's going to start doing automatically, without any configuration, anomaly detection. We have introduced automated tagging. You can see some examples here on the left top there, where you can say, hey, I see a piece of data, and that seems to be, for example, a buffer overflow, or this is a denial of service attack. And you can highlight that data. As you can see in that illustration there, you can just tag the data and you can label it. But as soon as you label it, the AI is going to pick it up and is going to use pattern recognition to start automatically identifying whenever that specific type of event is happening. So this is really all about evolving and making DataMiner more intelligent. And this is very important because the world we're living in, it's all about behavior and all of that. Because those ecosystems that we're moving into, they are very robust because they can do retransmissions, they can do balancing, they can ramp up memory and CPU utilization to compensate for errors. But it's extremely important to be able to identify that, to be having more and more intelligent software to look at behavior of metrics. And the beautiful thing is, of course, this technology is doing that 24/7 across all the metrics continuously. And it's very exciting technology, and it's a very talented team, and it looks very promising towards the future on what we will have available. A lot of the technology has already been successful, been awarded a patent. It's just to illustrate and underline how unique this technology is already. But it's embedded in a data miner system. It's part of the package, and it really creates a lot of added value. Now, then we have our service and resource management. We have made tremendous evolutions in that. And this is all about, this is just one example I have over here. This is a very complex IP network, which is great, very flexible technology, but also complex. While DataMiner is taking all the components, hardware components, software components, products from any vendors, and it's basically converting it into what we call functions. Standard functions where DataMiner has full awareness of availability, capability, and capacity. And you can render any type of environment, any type of deployment into basically a booking system where I can say, tomorrow I need to launch a new service of a specific type. Could be a satellite uplink, could be a contribution link across an IP network. It could be deploying resources in AWS. It really doesn't matter. The engine is completely open architecture. And ultimately, what it does is it provides you the ability to deploy, for example, some of those dashboards that I showed you, a user-definable app where users can interact with the technology in very intuitive and easy ways. And DataMiner is dealing with all the complexity, all the underlying complexity. And the key thing here is the use cases are simply endless. And this is the whole point about digital transformation. If you're looking at it, there's so much exciting technology, so much opportunity to be creative, to create and design new solutions. And this is the enabler. This is the open architecture engine that allows you to model and create and bring all that technology together and to start automating it in a very intelligent fashion. Then we have our IDP. IDP is also extremely important. Just to say one thing, for example, we talked about security. These days, it's very important that, for example, you do simple things like making sure that all your infrastructure, all your components, hardware, software, wherever it is up to the latest standards in terms of firmware releases and software releases. That's what IDP does. IDP is discovering resources across the entire spectrum. On-prem, hardware, software, new cloud services that spin up. IDP is the component that does that detection and automatically starts provisioning those components and brings them into the system. Discovery, again, open architecture. We support standard NMOS and other standards, but you can actually go ahead and define yourself a complete new CI type, as we call it, and start doing new discoveries. So very open, very flexible to cover any types of technology. And again, as I mentioned, software and updates, firmware updates, discovering connectivity, for example, making sure if you put in a new switch that it will automatically be onboarded, it will have the proper firmware version, it will have the proper baseline configuration, and only then, you can start using it for orchestration and that kind of things. So IDP, very, very important. Now, just to start wrapping it up, I just want to mention that the 10.2 release is also going to bring us the first versions of some new capabilities that we are introducing. One of them is our stateful object modeling, okay? And what this is about is, this is really about, you could call it a little bit of metadata, but I would call it probably metadata on steroids, because you can model any types of objects in the DataMiner system. And these are actually state-aware objects. Just to give you a few examples, okay? Over here, you see some user-definable apps, but in these apps, you have things like jobs and events. You see a list of jobs and events that are coming into the system. Over here, I can see contracts and price books and rate cards and exchange rates, and you can see the lists of data that you have there. Here, I have a list of B2B customer, and apparently I also have a list of contacts and people. Now, these are all things that do not exist natively in DataMiner. These are objects that have been created by the user. And you can create any kind of objects that you need. And these are state-aware objects. A contract can be valid or expired, for example. And so all of these things are modeled in state diagrams. We can give you some more information later. But it's very exciting because it's really about connecting the business workflows with the technology workflows, making sure that if you do orchestration and if you do automation, you can really do it and make it really connected to the business. So the DOM objects is going to support so many use cases also. We're very excited about that. That's also a new capability that for the first time we will start introducing from the 10.2 release onwards. And last but not least, process automation. Process automation is coming as well. And this is also, compared to the orchestration. In the orchestration, you're basically modeling a type of service. And you basically model what kind of resources you need to model or to deploy that service, a satellite uplink, a deployment in AWS, in the cloud, whatever it may be, across an IP network. And what you do is you basically make reservations for all the necessary components with the necessary capacity and capabilities and availability at that point in time, and then you spin up a service. Process automation is standard BPMN processes, and you can apply them to anything from file-based ingest, like for example saying, hey, I need DataMiner to watch a folder, see if a file arrives, if it's an audio file or a video file, I want to do this and this and this. Onboarding of switches. I install a new switch, I want DataMiner not only to detect it, but to look at the switch, see if it has the proper validated firmware version. If not, start a process to do the firmware update. I have bookings coming in from customers through a portal that I shared or a dashboard that I shared. I want to take those jobs, I want to take that and convert that through a process into bookings into my system. All of those processes with human interaction and technology interactions fit into one single solution. And this is going to be extremely powerful. And we're going to be introducing dashboard components, for example, to display all of these processes, in live. And again, you can have those components in your dashboards and bring them in there. You can integrate that in visual overview and much more. So process automation is definitely also a highlight of the 10.2 release. I'm going to have to start wrapping it up, but the 10.2 release is bringing tremendous value. And I would say, if you want the most secure environment, it's a no-brainer. Go to DataMiner 10.2. If you want to have a continuously supported platform, DataMiner 10.2 is definitely your choice. You can save also money on the upgrade because we will have a certain amount of resources available to support customers with that upgrade free of charge. It's also about saying, hey, let's make sure that we can evolve more easily in the future, having those continuous updates of the client and on the back end, being able to get more value from those updates much more quicker, for example, being able to look at the cloud connectivity that we have there, the different style of services that we're going to be offering, the Teams integration, the dashboard sharing, and a lot of other exciting stuff coming up. You will actually have a limited offer to explore those cloud options. So if you get cloud connected now, you will be able to easily experiment with that, and be able to experience what kind of game changers these are. And then there's also the opportunity, of course, to unlock the real power of digital transformation. all the stuff I've been talking about, the no-code apps, the dashboards, the GQI, the orchestration, the process automation, it's all coming, and it's giving so many opportunities to make that digital transformation a reality. I'm going to have to wrap it up because I'm probably already over time. It was a bit of a challenge to kind of try to describe what DataMiner 10.2 is all about. I hope you're as excited as I am, and I would really invite you to join us next Tuesday. We're going to try to have a brief session where we try to show you what happens if you make a data miner system cloud connected. Very exciting. You know, this is really about how new style of operations is going to be like in the future. So we're hoping to see you there. You can go to LinkedIn now, and you can already, you know, make sure that you set a reminder to join us for that session. It was great having you here, and we hope to see you soon again. Thank you very much.